Counterterrorism officials in Great Britain are investigating reports of a possible ISIS plot to attack celebrations in London this weekend. Sky News is reporting the plan involves pressure cooker bombs similar to those used in the Boston Marathon bombing. Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters is a Fox News strategic analyst. Thank you very much for talking to us. You know, the way in which intelligence were alerted to this plot is quite interesting. It actually comes after the work of reporters. According to Sky News, the terror plot was actually revealed by a woman named Sally Jones. She's a British convert to Islam who's fighting alongside ISIS in Syria. And Jones reportedly communicated with undercover reporters who actually used fake online profiles to give the impression that they were interested in joining ISIS. What does the intelligence community do with this one?
Well, look, we'll take intelligence or information about Islamist terrorists anywhere we can get it. And I think it's great that the journalists involved behave responsibly. That's a good thing. I wish more global journalists did. But the real issue here is that we're in a new age. And of course, Islamic State and other Islamist militant groups badly want to strike us. And symbolic events such as the British upcoming celebration of victory over Japan Day 70 years ago, and Britain had a much harder war than we did, by the way, that's a symbolic event and it's ideal to hit. They'll hit the Boston Marathon again if they can. They'd love to hit something like the Super Bowl. And this is just a new normal. I don't want people to live in fear. That's not my point. But my point is that thanks to the disengagement and neglect of President Obama in his 6+ years in office, we have seen Islamist militancy, Islamist fanaticism, which had in 2009, Al-Qaeda was broken, Islamic State didn't exist, and in this power vacuum, we have seen Islamic State spread quicker than any tech startup has. They've spread quicker on a global basis than Facebook or Twitter did, and we should be very, very concerned and resolute about addressing the problem.
Let's talk now about the plan by Republican presidential candidates on how to deal with ISIS. Donald Trump giving his plan to knock out ISIS. He spoke on Fox and Friends earlier this morning. Let's play that.
Now that we're there, and you have these guys chopping off Christians' heads and everybody else's heads, and lots of other bad things happening, and they will come for us if we don't come for them, I say cut them off where they're getting their wealth. Cut them off at the oil.
So he believes in using force. Does Trump have a good plan?
He doesn't have any plan. That's a soundbite.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he hasn't given any details. He says he wants to go in with force. He wants to go in with force in Iran. He wants to wipe out ISIS, but he hasn't given us any details as to how he plans on doing that.
Yeah, and it's a lot harder to do it than just to say it. But also, he's wrong. Oil isn't their only source of revenue. But also in a recent printer interview, he said that we should just take their oil. Well, it's not their oil. It belongs to the people that in what used to be Syria. But more importantly, when you make wild statements like that, think about it. If we took their oil for our own uses, that would legitimize everything Vladimir Putin does. It would legitimize what the grabs that China's making in the South China Sea. It would even legitimize, in retrospect, Saddam's invasion of Kuwait to take their oil. So my point is, you can't just shoot from the hip on this. You need to think through the second and third order effects. And I don't see any candidate really doing it right now. But Trump,
we have to go
show me the hamburger here.
I just want to ask you one last thing here, because tonight Jeb Bush plans to blast President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in his first major speech on foreign policy for withdrawing combat troops from Iraq, a decision he says was made out of blind haste. And then he's going to be proposing what he says will be a strategy to take out ISIS and combat Islamic extremism. What do you think his strategy is going to be?
Well, we shall see. But some of the things he has said, such as the idea that we should embed special forces with the Free Syrian Army or with the Iraqi troops, that might have worked 4 years ago. It's overtaken by events. So we'll have to see what he says. But, Julie, the key thing really isn't giving away the details of a plan to the enemy. What matters is a president who will stand behind our troops, who will, despite media attacks, despite polling, once we are in a conflict, we need a president who will back our troops to the hilt and not protect our enemies.
Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Julie.